What is the biggest red flag that you see in a home service sales process?
Do not give that person office manager unless they truly can scale you to 5, 7, 9, 12 million.
What's the first management hire that I need to make?
Most owners fall into two categories. Which are you?
Shouldn't I give my first hire equity? How do we know when it's time to switch from hourly to performance pay?
It's very easy. So number one,
what's a good way to lower my labor costs without cutting people or quality?
Simple answer, raise your prices.
Welcome to Beers with Contractors.
All right, tradies, it's Will. Welcome to another episode of Beers with Contractors. Drake, welcome, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Man, my knight in shining armor covering, you know how in construction they say good work is hard to find, Drake?
Mm-hmm.
In the podcast world, that is the case as well. Terry, of course, we love Terry, but he's been out there licking doorknobs or something because he's out sick. And, well, I don't know. I don't know how you feel about this. I am of the impression that it's like, if you're sick, don't come to the office, right?
Yes.
I mean,
don't come to the office. Don't get me sick. That's the big thing.
Dude, it used to be like, no, we're working. That's kind of the world I grew up in. My dad was like, I don't care if you're dying, you're making it to work. But even before COVID, it was like, dude, you will wipe out our entire company with the flu if you come to our office. And I've never gotten the flu, but it's like I've seen it just put a wave of just massive productivity killers all across the company. And I'm thinking, what is everybody doing? Are they just walking around making out with one another? Are they like touching each other's face? I don't get it. But
having appropriate sick time leave for people is beneficial to pay. There's a reason why paying people to stay away actually works out for the rest of the company.
Yeah. Well, you know, I've always tried to toy with this idea of like unlimited time off. Have you heard of companies doing this unlimited time off concept?
Yeah, my investor for my ISP, the company that he owned, they did that.
How did it work? I read a lot of articles on LinkedIn and Entrepreneur Magazine, things like that, but I've never like actually met somebody that had been in a company with it.
He did. So a lot of his stuff was programming. So it was all software based. We never really got into the details of like how well it worked. I know it helped him attract really good talent, which when you're fighting for software engineers and that's such a hyper competitive market, it kind of makes sense. I think the calculations change when it's all physical labor versus doing programming, because there is a lot of very difficult mental math and mental fatigue that's in there. But the thing I've heard about that practice, and I don't know that he did this, but if the goal is to have enough employee buy-in on what's happening with the company, that they know that they don't actually want to take time off because they want to stay and help the company accomplish its goals and accomplish their own goals.
Yeah, that's kind of my perspective on it. I'm not a proponent for this right now in construction because there's so much labor tied directly to the gross profit margin, and you're up against deadlines. And, you know, if somebody, I'm sure you could wrap it in some policy saying, hey, we need at least a week's notice or whatever. But man, there's just so much tied into productivity in construction. It's just crazy. So, by the way, everybody listening, all 5 of you, this is our Q&A episode, and we let off with a Q&A with Drake. So my bad, Drake. I know you've gotten pre-primed with a bunch of questions scraped from people all over the internet or the interwebs.
Yes, sir.
By the way, if you are out there and listening right now, I owe you an apology, especially if you're on Apple or Spotify, because I had a lot of people come up to me in the last 2 weeks saying, hey, I listened to you on Spotify, I listened to you on Apple. And then I went on there and there's a bunch of comments, and I never check the stats on Apple or Spotify. I'm on Spotify every day. But, you know, I always respond to comments on YouTube and things like that. So if you are listening on Spotify, my bad. It seems to be a lot of folks on Spotify and Apple that I've completely neglected. So my bad out there to you guys. So Drake, I know you have access to all of our accounts. So you could be like the Wendy's of the response world maybe for me. You could be the troll and then
yes.
Comment on everybody. How's that? That's in your job description, right?
I don't remember. Yes.
Yeah, that's right. We've been working so long together. It's like, hey, it's time to institute that unlimited time off for the podcast crew, which is just me, you, and Terry.
Yeah.
Actually, you know what? I think next episode we have a performance improvement plan right up for Terry and his
Okay. Yeah.
absenteeism. But never mind that. What a hypocrite move, because I was out 2 episodes ago. I was traveling to Indianapolis, but all right, Q&A episode. Let's see what we can uncover today, Drake.
All right. So we're just going to launch off with what's the most common mistake that home service owners make when they're trying to get past that $1 million mark, getting into 7 figures.
Oh, let me count the ways. So let me think about this for a little bit, because for home services, it can mean a lot of different things. But, well, let me break this down. If you are a home services company struggling to get over $1 million, typically the main reason you are struggling is because you lack any type of system and process around your pricing and margins, meaning you're just kind of throwing numbers out there. You're probably underpriced, and you have no standard operating procedure or a sales process, meaning you can't replicate yourself. Like, who knows all the knowledge that I have? And, customers, they want to deal with the owner and things like that. And that's where I see a lot of companies struggling to get over $1 million, don't have a grasp over sales and sales process, and then they can never replicate themselves. And it's like, well, I got this new sales guy and he only closes like 20% and I close 80. And it's like, of course you do. You're underpriced and you own the business, right? So, give them a process. And, oh, Drake, you remember our sales process episode, like how to close in-home sales? Somebody hit me up about that this last week, and they
Yeah.
said their team was using it. They've been running it in their sales meetings. And I was like, hell yeah, I wonder if my company's been doing that. And I asked them, and they were like, no, they already know it better than you will. And so I'm like, I made that episode for you guys. Hey, but yeah, 1 million, there's a lot of things that can go wrong.
Yep.
But I guess you could say basic selling, because the owner is the salesperson, and standard operating procedure around the process. But there's a lot of margin creep that happens in that. So if you wanted one thing, I'm going to focus in on sales and sales process.
Yeah, it makes sense because you go from transitioning from scrappy, do everything, get it all done, run as fast as you can, just trying to work harder, right? So for up until $1 million, like the answer's just been work harder.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like, you know what? Let's just go ahead and expand those hours. Let me answer that phone at 6:30 at night. And then the ball gets dropped, of course, and then the customer's upset. Then you got a bad review. Have we talked about the book Predictable Success in past episodes, Drake, by Les McCowan?
I don't remember. Enlighten me.
Hold on. You don't remember all 102 episodes that we've been through? Technically, hold on. Let me think about this. We are now past 2 years, because 100 episodes is not 2 years. So, bro, we getting old. And maybe we could backtrack the gray in our beards.
That's what all my white hair is over here.
Yeah.
Just from Beers with Contractors.
Yeah. Well, thanks, bro. Thanks for moving the shit and the technical difficulties. But yeah, so Les McCowan wrote this great book about predictable success, and he says businesses go through stages. So the first one is early struggle, meaning it's hand to mouth. You don't know if you're going to make any money. And then when you start getting out of that, you get into what's called a fun stage. And fun is exactly how it sounds. You are slaying dragons. People have energy to come in and like work longer hours, get those big accounts. And it's like you guys are coming in the 11th hour and saving the day, and you're making money. And it's just so much fun. I have been there for all of my businesses, and you kind of miss it when you pass it. But then you get into a stage called whitewater. And this is where you start bringing other people into the organization, and they screw it up. Like, bro, like you don't have systems and processes. So like whitewater is rough, because that's when customers don't pay because they're unhappy. The ball gets dropped in communication. There's no consistency in systems and processes, or they're not followed by all. That area sucks. You will go through it in every company, this stage called whitewater. And it's where a lot of companies are like, this isn't fun anymore. So they go back down in size. They go back to fun. Well, if you can get through whitewater, then you get into predictable success. This is where we have processes. People are following them. Now there's an other end of the bell curve, if you could imagine that bell curve. Then you fall into treadmill, where like you lack any innovation. You're just so stuck to your systems and processes that you don't change. And what happens is it creates customer conflict because your customers are changing. So a good case study, Drake, is could you imagine if somebody walked in Chick-fil-A headquarters and said, hey, by the way, we're going to stop saying my pleasure, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
People's brains would fry on the front line. It'd be like a total shit show. So this is what happens is they're like, well, we're just not going to change our processes. And so they fall into treadmill, and then they go into death rattle where they have so much cash that they can essentially chew on their own fat until they eventually go out of business. A great case study would be Kodak. You know, they had so much cash, they owned that market for so long that they just refused to change. And then they went down and down and down and poof. So businesses, you know, when you get smart enough to actually say, hey, I'm going to start systems and processes, guess what? It's fun until it's not. And there's no shortcut. There's no hiding. There's no escape. It happens. But man, if you get that book on audio, it's cool because Les McCallan's British. And
Okay.
I just love to listen to audiobooks when people have cool accents. It's pretty cool. So sorry,
That
little
is
side
cool.
quest.
No, that was good. And I think that has a lot to, you know, when you think what you described is we want to think, you know, business, just like every investor performa that you see, it always just goes up and to the right. But when you're hitting the stages, right, you need to expect that there's probably going to be a downtick,
Yep.
right? Early struggle, now it's going up, and then you get the white water, and then you get a little downtick, and then you can go back up to success. And so thinking that it's a straight line is just it doesn't work that way.
Oh man, and we've fallen all the way back, and I love it because right now I've got a company in predictable success that they've fallen into treadmill. That's my construction company. I've got a software company in fun right now. We came out of early struggle. Now we're in fun, and I'm like, enjoy it while you're here. and and then even our nonprofit, we're coming out of whitewater right now, and we know this. And if you can train your team to understand what these stages are, even if it's just a husband and wife team, if you can know these stages in your company, you can relate to them, you can address them, and then you can move on. My wife, Sydney, gives me so much shit because she's like, you're always bringing up how you ran a marathon, right? And but it's relatable. Like when you run a marathon, you know you're going to feel like you want to die at mile 18, right? And like as long as you know, you're not shocked. It's shocking, but it's not a shock because it's like, oh, I knew this was going to happen.
Yeah.
And then you work through it. Same in business. So educating yourself on these like tough times in business will make it so much easier because you can't fix things you're unaware of.
It's one thing to go through the difficulty of whatever it is you're going through. It's another thing to go through the difficulty of whatever you're going through and be surprised by it.
Yep. And it's like, son of a bitch. All right, we're going backwards. Well, cool.
So, okay, so on that thread though of I'm new in business, you know, what is if I'm the owner and I'm just running things, what's the first management hire that I need to make?
Ooh. Oh. Okay, so if you're an owner, and let's use the case study, Drake. Most owners fall into two categories. They're either better at marketing and selling or they're better at operations or numbers. Which are you?
I'm probably better at operations.
Okay, cool. Then I would hire somebody in marketing and sales first. So me, I'm more marketing and sales. I love to be out there in the world. I love to talk to customers. Even my team now is like, Will, stop talking to people. And I'm like, but I love to do it. It's so much fun. And a lot of owners fall into that, especially technician owners, smaller companies where, you know, they're outspoken, they're out there. So if you have a bias in operations and you're good with the numbers, find somebody that can get the business and sell it really well at a healthy margin. Because that's your natural weakness, right, Drake? And for me, like operations is that when I say operations, I mean more accounting, admin. If you locked me in an office and asked me to answer phones for 8 hours a day, I would burn that building to the ground. So, you know, so by default, a lot of owners, and me included in my younger days, like, you know what, just send it to my cell phone and I'll answer phones while I'm driving around in my truck. And then, of course, that hurts conversion rates, that increases your marketing spend. All these things happen from diverting to that. So most small companies that I know, having a strong admin person in the office is a key hire, though. If it's a low-level hire, get somebody that can convert those leads to appointments, can keep tabs on customer communication because you suck at it, Mr. Contractor. Don't worry, let's own it. And then also like go get out there and make sure that they're also keeping the calendars full. We want no empty days on our calendars unless it's a holiday, of course. So those types of people, I think, are the glue that hold a business together. What I typically find is a company that's going from, say, 500,000 to 3 million, that person kind of becomes the mother hen of the business. And I'm not saying this has to be a woman, but what happens is they kind of become the glue, and they create this authority in the business, even though they have none, because they're touching every side of the business. And if you can't separate them and put them in a lane, most of those hires don't work out. They're individuals, and this has been every single business I have had. I have had a strong admin person that has got us from point A to B, but never to C. And then we had to get into specialization, where this person, they only focus on scheduling and logistics, or this person only focuses on sales, or this person only focuses on admin. Kind of backed into a few different answers there, didn't I? I just gave you a
Yeah.
politician's answer, didn't I?
No, that makes sense. I think that's helpful for the right person. Going a step deeper into that, though, if we're continuing with this story and this example, how do you compensate that person?
Okay. As little as possible. Just kidding. Yeah. No, so let's just back up. If you're, call it 500,000 to 2 million, that person can be touching a lot. So a strong salary does really, really well. However, when you need to eventually get to the point of specialization, by that time you should know that type of person and what their best skill sets are. So you want to start rewarding and compensating them towards the area that you want to drive them to. Like, hey, Stacy, figuratively speaking, Stacy, you're really good at converting leads, so I'm going to set a KPI bonus to, conversion of leads to sales appointments, right? And typically, depending on your area of the country, by the way, this could range anywhere between 40,000 and 70,000 a year. I've got a client in the same type of scenario in Maryland. They have a position like this, $80,000 a year. Now they're getting to the point where they're growing so much that they need to start untethering and separating it. And 80,000 is a little heavy with no type of bonus structure. So they probably need to bring that back down and attach some bonus that are directly tied to the KPIs of that role. But, this person's consistent, they rock it out, and they play nice in the sandbox. That's the biggest problem I see with this type of role is when you start bringing in other people, they do not play nice in the sandbox. And I know a lot of gurus out there will tell you this, that, and the other, but I'm just telling you from reality. In every freaking business I've done, that growth scale, like if you grant too much phantom authority to that individual, it's going to ruffle feathers later. Us as human beings, we are wired to look at seniority when in fact we know in business it's not about seniority. It's about merit and what you bring to the table every growth year. And a lot of those individuals are happier in businesses that are 500,000 to 2 million. Those family mom and pops, when you get into a $5 million business, you're wrapping up HR policies, things like that. There's a lot of red tape for those personalities. So that's another reason why I don't see those personalities working very well, but they should be compensated well. I try to do over the market value for an office. Oh, sorry. ADHD, Drake. A lot of times that person is given the title of office manager, and you should not do that. There's nobody to manage.
What's wrong with the office manager?
Because it gives perceived authority to that title. And when you bring other people in, that's naturally de facto the new boss of that person you're bringing into the office. And that's not the case. And so I know that, and owners, we get tied up as like, titles don't matter and blah, blah, blah. I got news for you. Your employees' titles matter. And it doesn't even have to come with a pay change, but you give them a title, that means something to them. And so I'm very hesitant in that small level to give the title office manager, because office, you could be call centers, you could be marketing, you could be accounting, you could be HR. And now you're giving somebody the title over all of that realm. And I picture that scene in like The Lion King where it's like everywhere the sun touches is yours. But over there, what's that over there? Oh, we never go there. That's essentially what happens as you grow is office admin becomes the dark area. We don't go there because that's so-and-so's domain. And you cannot scale through that. And sorry, shitty metaphor. I'm sure people are like, Will's on his off his ADHD meds. But like, sorry, do not give that person office manager unless they truly can scale you to 5, 7, 9, 12 million. Because that's a totally different person.
So when you're hiring them, do you tell them, hey, here's where we're at today, and eventually we're going to hit a ceiling where I have to start bringing in other people to specialize on some of the things that you're doing, and we're going to push you into one of those specializations, which should help you make more money, but it's also going to help the business grow. Do you preempt that during the hiring decision?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, and you should. However, how many remember to repeat it as leaders? Very little.
Yeah.
That comes in once during an interview process and it's never repeated. So 3 years go by and it's like, they didn't remember that conversation. And they're like, this is a real thing with employees. They feel backstabbed because it's like, dude, you brought somebody in. I've been here since day one. We have been through fun together. We slayed the dragons. We have closed those big deals. We worked late when we didn't have to, and we did it. And now we're in whitewater, and now I feel betrayed. That's a real thing. And I know a lot of owners are rolling their eyes here, but that's another reason why I'm hesitant to give that title. So if you are doing that, you have to literally repeat it. I don't care if you have to, I'm not going to say tattoo it as I sit here with my arm sleeve, but like literally paint it on the wall. Like change is inevitable and constant. You are not going to be in the same position here in 2 years. Like do something to make sure that is repeated, because that's one thing people hate is change, unexpected change.
Yes.
So golly, we're going to be on a 2-hour episode today.
Hey, man,
Drake.
our 5 listeners are now informed.
I tell you, I hope they can appreciate the fact that like I'm not going to give out of the can answers here for short form. Like I'm going to give it how it is. And if you want to argue my opinion, go ahead, guys. Throw a comment out there.
But wait a second. Shouldn't I give my first hire equity?
Oh, don't go, bro. Dude. Hey. All right. Listen,
I'm
you're,
just
you're
over
going
here provoking.
No, okay. No, my opinion is no. Now, there's a little different, like, and I'm talking to construction owners, by the way. And let's just rewind. Should I give my first hire equity? A lot of that is called a fucking business partner, right? It's not a hire. It's, hey, I need help. You can do this. Let's become business partners. And damn if the first thing, we talked about this, Drake, they screw up the operating agreement. And what do we call it, Drake? The operating?
And disagreement.
Yeah, because nobody reads that damn thing, bro, until somebody's pissed off. So let's just talk about partnerships first. Is like, be very careful. In partnerships, I've seen them work. Healthy Home. If you're listening out there, Todd, Josh, you guys are killing it as business partners. They're in Indianapolis, man. They're some of my favorite people. They respect each other's lanes, and they got their stuff together on the legal side. Most business partners, like, they can do really well, but if they start well. So now let's talk about hires. No, I'm not a fan of equity because, once again, equity of call it a $200,000 a year company versus a $12 million a year company. If that's your goal and that's your vision and that's where you're growing, like, most people can't even comprehend that. Now, if that person says, I have grown a company from 1 to 12 million and I'm going to do the same for you, that's a little different. But it better be tied in vetted stock options, meaning you have to earn that out over the course of a period of time. And your attorney can address that because at any given time, you can pull that back. And you want to set that up as either what's called reserved or reserved stock options or equity pool stock options. You don't see that in a lot of LLCs, by the way. Have you seen that in LLCs, Drake?
No, not really. The one thing I've heard of for employees is phantom equity. And so they are paid as though they had off of the growth.
I was going to get into
so off
phantom
of
equity.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, but no, so phantom equity, let me get to that here in a second.
Yeah.
So, but I'm not a fan of giving equity at all, especially if it's just, an early hire. A lot of times I see that done out of desperation. Now, phantom equity, those should be reserved for key members. And phantom equity is, hey, I'm treating it like equity, but you don't own the company. You got to be very clear that this is phantom equity. You do not own a piece of the pie, but I'm treating as if you do, And because we need to make sure that doesn't become an entitlement. And if you don't have squeaky clean books and don't understand your margins, phantom equity, stay the hell away from it, because it's going to be an argument, because you're going to be like, man, we killed it. Here's your phantom equity. CPA comes knocking. Hey, by the way, here's your tax paperwork. By the way, here's the depreciation. Then the workers' comp guy comes knocking. Hey, by the way, here's your upcharge on workers' comp. And then all of a sudden, you just gave away all your retained earnings and bonus that are now going to these expenses. And it's like, oh, crap. So, and full disclosure, ask me how I know, Drake. I've done it.
Will?
Oh, I've done it, dude. And I'm like Forrest Gump, like, well, I'm going home now, because it's like, dude, I've done it. And I was like, crap, that was kind of stupid. Hence the last question of every show. What's your biggest screw up? I got tons of them. But yeah, phantom equity, I'm not a fan of. And actually, we'll be getting into this a little bit later. KPI-driven metrics that are direct profit levers, that's what I would reward that position off of. You need to hit these certain KPI targets, then that will result in X amount of flat rate pay. For that key hire, I think that's most important. Where it gets a little twisted is when you are a business owner out there and you're a husband and wife team. And that's a little tricky. So if you have some husband and wife teams, boy, we should do a whole webinar. Actually, that's a great idea, Drake. We should, remember our webinar we did? We should do one of just spousal teams and like have Sydney on, and then I'll just shut up the whole time. Dude, the dynamic is weird because on teams of business partners that are spouses, you typically can sometimes see a little bit more cash taken out of the business because they're not held accountable to anybody, and they ignore the margins. And it's like, gosh, we have worked our ass off here, and let's just get that boat. And it's like, hold on, that's entitlement just like anything else. So like, you have to be in a healthy space to be able to acquire those goods. So
Well, and just thinking about reinvestment, how much do we reinvest in the business, especially if there's any sort of asset-driven nature to it?
exactly. So boy, we're rocking. We're only like 2.5 questions in,
Yeah,
I think, Drake.
exactly. All right. So switching now more to the lower level frontline employees. It's called frontline, not lower level. Frontline employees.
Yeah.
How do we know when it's time to switch from hourly to performance pay?
Ladies, running your small business can be demanding. You got suppliers you got to work with. You're managing crews. Hell, you're chasing sales. It's a lot to take in. Listen, if you want to grow your business, you got to stop working in it and you got to start working on it. So that's where my friends at Foundation Rescue Supply come in. You're not just getting foundation repair products and waterproofing products and air quality control products. With their nationwide distribution, you're getting a partner who knows how to help you scale. And that's why I use them. The Foundation Rescue Supply team has industry knowledge that will help make your life easier. You get the tools, the trainings, the systems that you need to move the needle. You want your sales team to close more leads? Done, because they have the proven process for that. You need your crews to work smarter, not harder? Done. Their installation training will get you out there and rocking and rolling in the field. With Foundation Rescue Supply, you're not just buying materials here, you're buying a better business system that they have helped create. And you sell more, you install more, and you grow your team. So the bottom line is this: you get best industry pricing, you get field productivity on track, and you get more revenue out of everybody on your team. So this is your chance to step up, scale up, and thrive. If you are ready to make that happen, head to foundationrescuesupply.com, check out their catalog, and speak to my friends, their team, how you can take beyond the products with your company with Foundation Rescue Supply. Okay. So for growing companies looking at performance pay, to be clear, you're never going to change from hourly. You can't. If you're paying hourly for frontline, you have to still pay the hourly and overtime for fair wages and earning compliance. So, and I work with companies all the time where it's like, hey, you're not ready for performance pay, because the number one driver is you have to understand your cost of goods sold first. And what I mean by cost of goods sold is you have your income that comes in. First things that come out are labor, commissions, materials, and any subcontractor fees, or what I like to say, screw-ups, too. We've got screw-ups in ours. If you don't know what's left over after that, you do not need to talk about performance pay. And the reason being is performance pay typically falls under 3 categories. And we get to see companies use all three, and sometimes they just use one or two. The first one is labor-driven performance pay systems for Frontline, meaning you are paid X amount per hour, and if you hit below this labor target, and there's tons of ways to make that cookie crumble, then you make remaining balance. And that's most common. That's typically what we find most productive in performance pay. The second one is KPI-driven, meaning if you hit these certain targets, they don't have a direct correlation to profit, but eventually lagging, it helps us become more profitable as a business. Google reviews, thinking collection rate on jobs, callback rates. Callback rates, most people don't realize. We talked about this with Jeff Tiller on a past episode. Didn't realize callbacks are worth like $380 per billable hour for some companies. So that would be a KPI-driven performance pay. And then the last one is Spiffs. That's, hey, you got the cleanest truck and we're getting farther and farther away from profit drivers here as I go through this. So pardon, I should have said that, but hey, you got a clean truck. Rather than giving you a gold star pat on the back pizza party, here's $50. Go take your wife out someplace nice, right? And then, hey, by the way, absolutely killed it this last week. You came in dressed full uniformed. You showed up with a good attitude. Here's some money. Those are spiffs. And a lot of business owners, they're thinking, hey, KPI and spiffs are going to change behaviors, but it's typically more labor-driven that helps drive better results because the person on the front line can see a direct correlation between cause and effect. If I make better decisions doing this, I get more money. If I stop going to the gas station, watching the hot dogs for 10 minutes, drinking coffee with everybody, I'm going to make more money. And so that correlation is what I see finds the best results, but you could be throwing money out the window if you have no clue about your margins and pricing. So, yeah. And markup versus margin. That's a whole other mess. If you are marking up your product, you do not need to be thinking about performance pay right now. This concept of markup, like my materials are 20%, so I'm going to mark them up 60%, and then I'm going to add, call it $200. You're eroding out your margins. Sorry, Drake, I interrupted.
Oh, you're good. No, I was going to say, besides the fact that you said $50 will get you somewhere nice, and you're triggering
Hey, now hold on, Drake. You don't know this about me. I used to work at Long John Silver's in high school.
Okay.
Valentine's Day was the busiest day at Long John Silver's. Let that just sink in for a second, Drake. I want you to think about this. And if you guys are here right now, listen, it's no longer there, but the Long John Silver's in Boone, North Carolina was a poppin' place. And I tell you, Drake, in high school, I'm like, man, why is it so busy? And these guys would show up and be like, honey, you get those extra shrimp, baby. I love you. And I'm like, really? Fucking Long John Silver's, bro?
Dude, I saw a commercial. I saw a commercial the other day that was talking about going on it was a Taco Bell commercial.
Oh, God.
About going on a date to Taco Bell. It was from the 90s, and like you got a supermodel.
Yeah.
And like a guy that was like only in the 90s.
Yeah, like a 10 out of 10.
Yeah, only in the 90s was like acceptable to go get Taco Bell in a drive-in movie.
Nothing expresses inflation worse than Taco Bell in our society. You remember the 59, 79, 99? You know, when those commercials are like, baby, you're a 10. You get those 99 tacos.
Yeah.
And, now it's like you look at the menu, it's like, wow, bro, this is where we've come. And the inner millennial in me is like playing victim here, but anyway. Yeah, little tidbit history note about Will's previous employment history.
Yeah. So, So that was a really good answer. There's lots of good information in there. But that was all the ways that you can't go from hourly to performance pay. I need to know how you can go from hourly to performance pay.
Okay. All right. So,
because I know it's possible. There is a way.
Yeah. All right. First,
where there's a will, there's a way.
That's right. Yeah. Well, it may be a rough way. It'd be like the trudge through the woods and the swamps. But no, first thing is pull your profit and loss statement. If you want to get to performance pay, it's very easy. So number one, pull your profit and loss statement. Where is your labor now? Okay. And by the way, if you want to know hit me up through the link. And depending on your industry, I can share with enough information where your labor should be. That's another thing that is kind of cool working with companies. So first, pull up the profit and loss. You need to know where your labor is, okay? Number two, what behaviors are you trying to change? Is it overtime issues? Is it jobs not being completed? Is it things like that? And then you're going to get into the next step where it's like design your performance pay around the behaviors you want to change. I have tons of companies. They have great cultures. They're just not good at finishing on time. Guess what the performance pay is going to be built around, right? I have other ones where it's like overtime is literally bleeding their margins dry. And it's like, okay, cool. So on-time completion is going to be their performance pay amount. But then stress test it. And so that's why I say you have to know your margins first. Pull profit and loss, and then find out where you should be as a company and given your market. If you need my help, hit me up in the link. I can be like, hey, if you're in outdoor living in Arizona, this is where you should be. And then we can give a comparative. I can't give specific company names because of my privacy policy, but I get to see 750 plus crews all across the country just killing it. And then what are the behaviors we're changing? And then we implement the performance pay with a strong emphasis on, hey, this may change. Back to that first question about like your job's going to change. Well, these things are going to change, especially because pricing changes. I have had some companies that when they pull that profit and loss, we discover a pricing issue, meaning they're not pricing their projects correctly. So it's like, hey, you can't do performance pay until you fix that problem, because otherwise nobody's going to make any performance pay. It's impossible, because if the market is pricing here and you're the low guy, automatically, if this was your margin for labor, we're going to go ahead and put that here and we're going to squeeze that down. So by percentage, you just made it worse. So step by step, I'm channeling my inner laser focus, Drake. Pull your profit and loss, figure out your labor by percentage. Where's it at now? Compare that to the natural market value, meaning where you're at in the country and the services you provide, behaviors you're trying to change, then implement everything around those behaviors. 4 steps, you're done. I don't care if you do it on spreadsheets. It works. Just get ready to be a spreadsheet jockey if you want to. But I did that for 16 years before having performance. So did that answer your question now, Drake?
That answers it a lot better.
Hell yeah. 3rd time's a charm.
There's a fastest way. There might be also what's a good way to lower my labor costs without cutting people or quality.
All right. I wish I was
again, fastest or best or yeah.
Yeah. Increase your pricing. Done.
Yeah.
Good. Increase your pricing. And guess what? If you're thinking, I can't do that, I'm going to lose money, you just do it. And in fact, if you want, gosh, he'll kill me for this, but there's only 5 people listening. Actually, after discovering Apple and Spotify listeners, I'm like, I need to watch what I say.
We have quite a few.
Yeah. Andrew Howard, Eastern Crawl Space. I hope you're listening, buddies, in Wilmington area, North Carolina, coastal North Carolina. Call him up, look him up on Google, give him a like or something. Call him and ask him this. Hey, if you want to improve labor without changing anything in the company for, hey, work harder, do this. Obviously we don't want to be slave drivers and construction, but God, sometimes it's like you got to pick up the pace here, bro. But number 1 way, simple answer, raise your prices. I literally did this a few days ago. Sydney did this a few weeks ago. And we were actually having a conversation with Martin Holland. Go back and read the episode. God, I love Martin. He's an amazing guy, wrote the book, The Profit Problem. Tell us about The Profit Problem, because it is in my top 5. It is an amazing book.
Well, thank you for that. I want to jump to the title real quickly. The title was to be, as you said, they say I make money, so why don't I have any? And my publisher said, that can't be a title. That's too many words. We can't do that. And so she came up with The Profit Problem, which is a great title. And then she said, well, take that off. And I said, you put that right back on there and don't ever bring it up again. And I tell that, I have never shown it to a business owner, ever, that didn't just start laughing and go, that's me, right?
We were like, you know what? Yeah, we're going to increase pricing 5% across the board. We've got some new things that we need to leverage into 2026. We have to increase margin. And we talked through it and we're like, you know what? Let's be sure to tell the managers that we're increasing it 7%. So we came in, we said, guys and gals, increase your pricing 7% across the board. And they were like, whoa, 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 time out, time out, time out. And they were like, that's pretty steep. And it's like, well, we got all these things to cover. And they were like, let's do the math. How's 5% sound? And I'm like, great, go. So what we did is we got to the same thing, but it was their idea. And then guess what happened to closing ratio? It didn't change. Our closing ratios didn't change. And that's where most owners forget, like, man, we're going to lose all these jobs. But hell, back to Martin, buy his book. He's got a graph in there that shows you can stand, depending on your gross profit margin, you can stand to lose, like, sometimes if you increase your pricing at 10%, you can stand to lose like 22% of your business and still hit the same financial targets. Would you rather hit the same financial targets with less customers? I would say yes, but most say no because of ego. They want to be the biggest people in the market. And then what they do is they totally ignore their personal balance sheets. When I say their financial statements, they're mounting up debt all because they want to be on some billboards. Man, business is not about being famous in a market. Business is about profitably driving results that serves the customer, the employees, and the vendors, to be clear, at a rate that you can continue to sustain yourself in perpetuity. And if you do those things well, they work great. But then so much of us just want to be so big in our market. We want to be on TV and in commercials and billboards. And it's like, who's that serving? That's out of those three that I mentioned, that's only serving the vendors, the marketing vendors. They're the only ones getting a payday. The customers are getting lackluster service and the employees are getting suppressed income. So like, that's why I say you can have your cake and eat it too and still fulfill those three. But most business owners, they get really like wrapped up in this concept that I have to be the biggest. How about be the most profitable, right? Because those are the companies that are 100-year-old in our backyard. They've been profitable for 100 years. And now they're looking around like, Delisi's in our backyard, Drake. Crazy business. A concrete company. They employ thousands. They've been in business forever. But this is a concrete company. Do you know what 80% of their revenue comes from, Drake?
I mean, the guess would be concrete, but probably not.
Aggregate, raw
Aggregate.
goods.
Okay.
Because they ship stone to all the other concrete companies. And they're shipping it to Dallas. And it's like, it's so cool to think. It's like, no, we're kind of like a raw goods distributor before we were a concrete company. We just happen to do a lot of concrete. And it's cool because they've chipped away at that for hundreds of years, or not hundreds, 100 years. And man, that's just my internal personality. I also, hypocrite here, I've done that so many times, ego-driven business growth. And dude, there's no good path out of that. Dude, oh man, you'll just burn yourself into a hole in the ground, and man, customers will be unhappy, employees will be unhappy, and your vendors will be unhappy because you're behind on the bills. So tangent number 4, done. I know you're thinking, oh, I'm going to drill down into this because I got to mix this down later.
I think that one's good because pricing is such a big thing that people struggle with, right? It's like, I've got to grow. And it's a lot harder to grow by going and finding all the people and writing down all the processes and doing all the things when you could just make a few adjustments on that computer screen that says price.
Well, unpopular opinion, but this is true. 90% of you guys out there pricing right now, I guarantee you, I know exactly how you came up with your pricing. You got a pricing sheet from your competitor. You said, I'm smaller, so I'll do 20 or 10 or 30% less. And I'll do the same service. And I'll do a lot of word of mouth. And what happens is it worked. But then all of a sudden you started to grow and you never increase your pricing. All you did was you carbon copied your pricing from a competitor in a given market rather than actually looking at the margins that your business needs to survive, which should start with profitability. Now, guess what? If you're going to be the premium in a market, there's always a premium in the market. We're not selling televisions at Walmart here, guys and gals. So it's like, start with healthy margins And we're seeing this anywhere between 8 to 18% in home services. And yeah, there's going to be some hater out there saying, I do 27%. It's like, yeah, it's you and two other people in a truck that's, jacked up on rims. I don't care about you guys. I'm talking about legitimate business owners. Boy, we've got some sparks going off on this one, Drake. Terry's lit me off the hinge. He's not here. But I'm serious. Like, if it's like my target is 10 because I need that to be able to reinvest in growth. I need to be able to provide a good living for my family. And then we back into the pricing of what it's going to cost for voice over IP in the office. Good benefits for my employees. Internet marketing and being in a good place and being in a good building. Now, I'm not saying go crazy and go get a Cadillac of a building or anything. Don't overscale your system on the indirect overhead. But I need to be able to pay for good labor. Do I do that in multiple ways? I need to negotiate with vendors, and the material margins need to be X. And then that means, do I need people to sell it? So we're backing into our pricing on a margin basis. And most, like I've started with this, most contractors pull their original pricing from their competitors and bring it down because they can undercut it being a smaller size company. And all they're doing is cutting their legs out from underneath them because they can't sustain the indirect overhead later in their business. Mm-hmm. Sorry, preachy.
No, you said something though that I think I want to, because I don't think we've really talked about it. When you're talking to vendors and your distributors, how do you approach negotiating with them?
Well, it depends on the vendor.
Okay.
If it's a marketing vendor, how many courtside seats am I going to get to the local sports team? I'm kidding. Full disclosure, like marketing companies love to sweeten deals a lot. And that's okay, but it's built into it's baked into their cost, right? When I address a vendor, I do believe in having good relationships with my vendors. I'm not like the Walmart approach where it's like, give me the best price and tell me what targets I have to hit and all that. I still do that, but ultimately I am very clear with them in addressing vendors like, I want a good relationship with you, but you are not 100% my sole focus. I have to take into account my customers and my employees and my family. So there has to be an exchange of value. And sometimes it's not just their product, right? I've got some great vendors out there that when they come to my table, it's not just purchasing a product. They may have, hey, we have 17 other companies around the country. It's just like you. And we've shared a SOP that works really well with all these other companies. Here you go. And, am I getting support? When things go wrong, that matters with a vendor. And that's really important because, boy, when we have so much tied to the direct install of a project, when something goes wrong on the material side, you need somebody that's going to respond because that's holding up your cash. It's building up your accounts receivable, just all of that. And I've had vendors come in with capes like, we're here. Not, hey, press 1 if you want support line. Press 2 if you want to pay your bill. Press 3 if you want to die in a phone tree. Press 4, and you know what I'm talking about. So, and that's marketing vendors, that is suppliers, that's internet people. And now, granted, I have a bigger internet provider, but I've also got a voice over IP company and a local provider that's, man, when something goes down, I can call somebody because I do not want to be sitting on hold with some big conglomerate. Because phone lines, if they go down, man, we are in trouble. We got to jump on that quick. So that's the number one thing is like, I do believe in having good relationships with vendors, but now always ask, like, where's the next step here? I want to make more money, but I also don't want you to expect it's going to come out of your pocket. Where's the next threshold that we can hit? And I'm constantly doing that. I'm constantly renegotiating, and it's not out of hate. I'm not trying to be Shark Tank here. And I've changed vendors, and it's like, hey, I've reached this threshold, and we've had a great relationship. I believe this person over here is going to provide me the same thing, and they've offered the same thing at the same level of service. I could be wrong, but like, I just want to make you aware and give them first right. Give them first right of refusal on that business. And I've changed vendors that way. Now, Drake, this sounds so biased. If there's some big corporate soulless corporation, we will negotiate till we're blue in the face. Every year we call our internet provider and say, hey, we're going to cancel our service. And they literally go, Well, don't do that. Who are you going to go with? Why don't we discount your bill? And they discount it, and then we hang up the phone and we go on about our life. Every year we do this. And yes, I'm a multi-million dollar a year company. And yes, we still call our internet provider and say, we're going to cancel our account. And then some person on the backside working for this soulless internet company goes through their SOPs and says, give them a 12% discount. And if they stay, great. And they give us a 12% discount. And we've been doing that for years. And, but I don't do that to good human beings, like mom and pop operation, outfits that actually have core values, things like that. So anyway, that's my 2 cents on that one. 3 or 4 cents, actually. Probably 7 cents.
Yeah. So we've got probably enough time for one more.
Yeah, boy, I went long on some of these. Sorry, Drake. Sorry to
No,
you
it's good,
sick
though.
listeners out there. I got spicy on some of these.
There's some good nuggets in there people are gonna like.
Hell yeah. All right, well, let's make this one count.
So
Let's see if this one gets me canceled.
All right, then let's go with red flags.
That was a long pause, bro. I hope you don't edit out that pause on the post-production, because that was like a, okay. That was awesome. Oh,
Challenge accepted.
yeah, there we go.
So, what is the biggest red flag that you see in a home service sales process?
Oh, I thought this question was going to go a different route. You tricked me. That was a good one. Okay. All right. Well, actually, there's a few. So let's just break down a few. If you have these like 3 things in your sales process right now and you're trying to scale a sales team, get rid of them. Number 1, both decision makers have to be at the home before we get there. Really? It's 2025, about to be 2026. Like, bro, like, come on. The people read right through that. And they're not going to accept an invite when they got 6 other companies that would be gladly come out and talk to you as a human being. So number 2, hey, we need to make a decision about this today, or otherwise the price is completely different the next day. And it's an urgency sale at that point, and it's like, okay, I get it, but there's better ways to identify the decision-making process. And companies that do that, it's just, man, you're heading to straight scotch after a while. Sorry, that's a sales term that I developed years ago with a good leader of mine. We'll get to that here in the post, the hangover part. Number 3, specifically, if your pricing system increases prices based on the neighborhood that you're in, that shows 0 integrity. Those 3 right there just eat me alive. And that's a red flag all across the board for me. And it's like, well, okay, so we can provide better services for them? No. I get like, hey, this person's going to be difficult, so I'm going to need to buffer some things. But that's also one of those where that should be overall on your price sheet, not just like in a given circumstance. But also, if you've got a person that's what we call a PITA charge, pain in the ass charge, that's probably a process in your marketing, or you're taking unqualified customers that are unqualified, or you're just inviting those customers in your door. But yeah, those 3 just drive me nuts. Hey, we can't book the appointment because 2 people need to be there, both decision makers. I hear companies say this. It drives me crazy, Drake. Like, they're killing their conversion rates. They'd be like, hey, we'd like an estimate. Great. Here's the day. We need both decision makers there. And they're like, what? And these companies stand by this. And friends of mine out there are probably listening to this. They're going to call me and be like, well, you're crazy. Well, you're crazy. So, like, this is nuts that we're still doing this. Number 2, like, hurry up and buy now, or if you don't make a decision by X amount of time, yada, yada, yada. And then the last one, of course, what was my last one, Drake? God, I got so fired up on that one. If you adjust your pricing depending on the neighborhood you're in.
Oh, yeah.
That was the last one. And, dude, those just drive me nuts because they're just not good core value driven. And people read through that stuff. Mm-hmm. Man.
Well, since we're about answers, for number 2, doing the urgency, or both decision maker, the price will go up if you don't make a decision right now. What is the proper way or an alternative to creating urgency with your prospect?
Okay. I know I'm promoting the wrong guy here. I'm not promoting myself, but Alex Hormozy's got a great framework around the closer framework. Like, now he has what's called find the pain point, right? Like, why is this something that made you want to call me out to your home? That's a fancy way of saying, what concerns you about this problem, and tell me more about that. And then tell me more. And why did you feel that way? That's a softer way of doing it. Alex Hormozy says, like, why did you call me out here? Because that's what you're solving. You're not selling features and benefits. You're not selling some fancy siding or flashy window that protects from UV. None of that. It's like, what's the pain point? We call that the emotional reason for buying. Like, a customer has an emotional reason for buying. That's what we are looking for. And Alex Hormozy's closer framework, you can look it up on YouTube. It's an 8-9 minute video. It's great. Then, once you have that, every single thing that you talk about and your price is totally tied back to that. Not your product, not your service. Granted, you need to have the basics, like, we're a good company and we got a great reputation. Look us up online. Guess what? They already did that. Like, you need to tie it back to that, not, well, it's $12,000 because we're the best in the market and we have clean trucks and we have 500 Google reviews and we have the best products. They don't give a shit. It's $12,000 because you said to me, these are the important reasons on why this mattered in your life. And we're going to address those by doing this, this, and this. What questions do you have? And would you like to know the next steps? Done. Because people don't buy all the flashy stuff. I mean, they do in a certain degree, but not the wide majority. So anyway, I love that. Alex, have you seen Alex Hormozy's like closer guide?
Oh yeah.
It's
oh yeah.
pretty sick.
It's great.
Yeah.
And one example. So I was with my buddy who's buying a car, and the salesperson, we're talking about this specific car that was on the internet, came in to look at, and, we're talking about the car, and just randomly the salesperson's like, yeah, we've got hundreds of cars out here. We're a luxury dealer doing all this stuff. And we're just both sitting there like,
I just wanted to look at this.
I just want to know about this car.
I know. I
don't
told
care.
you exactly
I don't
what
care
I'm gonna
about
buy.
Yeah, it's like, I don't care about the other 699 cars out there. We care about this car and the slight imperfection that is a crack in the bumper, and what you're going to do to fix that if we're willing to, if he's willing to buy it, right?
Yeah.
And we just kind of look at each other. So it's like, it doesn't make sense. But if you're tying it back to the pain point, be like, hey, that makes a lot of sense. We've seen this exact problem before, and we've helped hundreds of people fix this exact same thing quickly and at a price that they can afford. You tie something in like that, everything is around that pain point. It's like, hey, I have credibility because I've helped your neighbors fix this exact same thing, rather than just pulling it out of nowhere like, hey, look at us, we're big and awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I can't remember what it was. I think it was Start With Why by Simon Sinek. Uses automotive industry as a great case study of how there's a disconnect between the product itself and the pain it's solving versus what happens in the sales process. It's like the engineers, they design a fantastic product that, for example, is reliable and has a good warranty. They don't do it because they want to create a shitty product that just sells well. They want it to, it's like, we don't want human beings to be stuck on the side of the road. And then it gets to the salespeople. It's like, we got a 15-year bumper-to-bumper warranty. And it's like, no. Like, back to the pain. Like, we have this warranty so you don't have to be fearful that you're going to be stuck on the side of the road. That's what people like. That's the emotion that people get caught up in, and versus like the car stories. And we could go on and on about the car industry. But I got to tell you, like, there's a lot in the home services space, and you see it, you've heard it. A lot of people in the home service space, they're not far behind. And they've become like all about the immediate sale, turn and burn, move on. And there's a world for that, and private equity's done a lot of that in the industry. And I've got friends that are in private equities, and not all of them are cut the same way. But man, we're not far behind if we don't change course there. But I'm good. Like, we do it a different way. Customers love us. Not gonna make everybody happy, but man, customers love us. We get good reviews. So, Drake, we killed it today, bro.
Crush it, man. We still
Dude.
got questions left for next time.
No, and you know what? I'm not going to do what Terry did on his episode 2 episodes ago, where when it was done, he texted us in a group text saying, boy, it ran so much smoother without somebody in the room. I'm not going to do that to Terry because I know he's sick and he's going to have his chicken noodle soup and his foot rubs and all that stuff. I don't know what Terry does when he's sick, but I can imagine that bear of a guy is just snoring his head off right now. I do hope you're feeling better, Terry, if you made it this far in the episode. But Drake, dude, appreciate you, man. Yeah, we got tons of extra questions here, and I kind of like it, man. I don't know. Maybe the end of the year, I'm just getting fired up. Maybe that's
There we go.
We're going to get unfiltered. Let's get Will canceled. So, but yeah.
2026 goals.
Yeah, that's it, bro. So, Drake, appreciate you, man. You listeners out there, including on Apple and Spotify, thank you guys. And otherwise, we'll have plenty of guests. We got them lined up and look forward to seeing you guys next week on Beers with Contractors. Peace.
And that's a wrap for today's episode of Beers with Contractors. We hope you enjoyed our chat as much as we did. Before we say our final goodbyes, a friendly reminder. Beers with Contractors encourages responsible drinking. If you choose to enjoy a beverage during our time together, please do so in moderation and only if you're of legal drinking age in your country or state. Furthermore, the advice and insights shared in this podcast are for informational purposes only. Always consult with professionals and experts in your field, and be sure to follow local laws and regulations regarding licensing and permits. We're here to help, entertain, and inspire, but your safety and compliance are important. So, as you head out into the world of construction and contracting, remember to build responsibly and make decisions that stand the test of time. Thanks for joining us today. We'll catch you on the next episode of Beers with Contractors. Until then, cheers to your success.